So we're in chapter 3 now, and this is a very important chapter. It's the basis upon which everything's going to rest. So we really got to pay attention. You really got to get it. Here we go. Okay, sorry about that. So a market is anywhere that buyers and sellers interact. Okay, so we've got the interaction of buyers and the interaction of sellers going on here. And that can be local, it could be national, international. And price, okay, is going to be how these two groups talk. So price is everything in a manner of speaking. Demand is one of the elements. So we can see this as either a curve, so that's sort of the graphic representation, or as a schedule. That's going to look more like a table. And it's the definition is the amount that consumers are willing and able to purchase at a given price. So we're going to say, you know, at $5, right? So we draw this out at $5 as our price, then people are going to be willing to purchase 20 items. Please excuse my handwriting. I'm still trying to get used to exactly how this works. Anyway, at different amounts, right? So over here, you know, if we're say at $7, then people are going to be willing to purchase fewer items, say 10 items or something like that. So there's both the individual market or the individual demand as well as the market demand. Individual demand is like me and what I'm willing to pay for a certain thing. Market demand is what me plus everybody else is willing to pay. So the law of demand, this is important. There's often a question that's just about the definition. When everything is equal, as price falls, quantity demanded rises. So there's a little bit of a difference between demand and quantity demanded. Quantity demanded is the number of things we purchase. Demand is just our desire. So I always ask the question, do I demand a Ferrari? And the answer, of course, is yes. I have a demand for a Ferrari. The problem is I don't have the money to buy it. So at the price that Ferraris command, say $100,000, the quantity that I will demand is 0. But of course, we can graph that, okay? So here is my demand curve for Ferraris. Okay, so right here, where I'm at a Q of 0, that is at the price of $100,000. Okay, but if Ferraris get way down here to say $30,000, then I will demand 1 Ferrari. But that's the same demand curve. The problem is that Ferrari is not interested in supplying any Ferraris for $30,000. Now why is this? Well, there's common sense. Obviously, when the price goes down, you buy more. When the price goes up, you buy less. That just makes sense. But there's also the law of diminishing marginal utility. So we talked about that a lot with donuts. That was that your first donut's very satisfying, your second donut a little bit less satisfying. If it is less satisfying, you are not interested in paying as high of a price. And then the income effect and the substitution effect, we'll talk more about later on, but basically what that means is as the price of something goes down, then you feel wealthier. When you are wealthier, you can buy more stuff. The substitution effect, on the other hand, is when the price of something goes up, then I'm more interested, more willing in purchasing something that is similar to it. So I might think that Coke and Pepsi are exactly the same, but I generally prefer Coke when they're the same price. However, when the price of Coke rises, so Coke rises, now all of a sudden Pepsi, which didn't look like as good of an idea when they were the same price, starts to look like a much better idea. And that is the substitution effect. So as the price goes up, quantity demanded will fall. So here are some demand curves, okay? So we're going to look here and we're going to see these various matched pairs, okay? So at each of these points, we're going to have a little dot, and then we connect all of them into a line. And you'll notice that they go down. So we've got the price per bushel, and then we have the quantity demanded in terms of bushels per week. Comes together, gives us our downward sloping demand curve. Now, for our market demand, so that was an individual's demand curve. For our market demand, here we've got the members of our market, Joe, Jen, and Jay. And we're talking about 3 buyers making up our market, and this is the market for corn. So when corn costs $5 per bushel, Joe will buy 10, Jen will buy 12, and Jay will buy 8. Now what that means is that at $5, a total of 30 will be purchased. And then all the way down here, if it goes down to $1, everybody's going to be buying corn. We're going to be making corn out of everything. We're going to be decorating our house like at Halloween. Corn, corn, corn everywhere, for a total of 221 bushels of corn. Now let's say that demand changes. So here's the thing. When the price alters, okay, when the price goes from $5, when I'm going to demand 2 bushels per week of corn, price changes down to 1. Okay, now all of a sudden I am demanding, say, 15 bushels per week. That change in price did not give us a change in demand. That's a really important thing. It changed the quantity that we demand, but it did not change demand. So what is going to cause this? This is an actual shift in demand. This means that I demand more of every good at any price. So let's look at this. At $3 now, instead of the 6 that I would have purchased before, now all of a sudden I'm willing and interested in purchasing down here at, say, 10. Sorry for my squiggly line. So what makes us demand corn more? Well, let's say that scientists come out and they say that eating corn cures cancer. Now all of a sudden, at every price, I am going to be interested in purchasing more corn. No matter what corn costs, I'm going to eat more of it because I now desire these ears of corn more because of their cancer-curing properties. Likewise, when the scientists come out and they say that corn causes cancer, well now, even if corn remains the same price, I'm going to buy less corn because I don't want cancer. So now, I'm not going to eat any corn, right? I'll turn it into ethanol and I'll put it in my car, but I'm not going to purchase it as food. So here are examples of change in quantity demanded. Change in quantity demanded gives you movement along the line from one price-quantity combination to a different price-quantity combination. A shift in demand, and usually that's what I call it, a change in quantity demanded versus a shift in demand. So that shift in demand means that you will purchase more at every single price. So how do we know the difference? We said that price changes lead to changes in quantity demanded. That is movement along an existing demand curve, moving from here to here. That's what a change in price does, movement along an existing demand curve. But when we want to have a shift in demand from D to D1, then all of a sudden we have to have something else, something other than price change. So that could be a change in consumer taste. So all of a sudden we didn't like corn before, now we do. Change in number of buyers. So a bunch of immigrants come and all of a sudden there's more people purchasing things. More buyers will demand more. A change in income. Let's say that everybody becomes wealthy. When we are wealthier, we all buy more of everything, except for what we call inferior goods. Now this isn't a quality thing. This isn't a good things here and bad things here. Normal goods are things that we buy more of when times are good and our income rises. Normal goods, we buy more when our income rises. Most goods that we think of are normal goods. But then there's also inferior goods. Inferior goods are things that we buy less of when our incomes rise. So used cars would be a good example here, right? Most of us, when our income rises, we are less interested in buying a used car and more interested in buying a new car. New cars, normal goods. We buy more of them when our income rises. Inferior goods, used cars, we buy fewer of them when our income rises. Of course, the reason that we buy fewer used cars when our income rises is because we buy more new cars when our income rises. Our last two determinants of demand are change in the price of related goods. So we have substitutes and complements. So what we have here our complements, my typical example is PB and J, peanut butter and jelly. So when the price of peanut butter rises, we are less interested in eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So peanut butter rises, and our purchasing of jelly will fall, even if jelly's price doesn't change, because the complement became more expensive. Quantity demanded of jelly will fall. Substitutes, on the other hand, this is Coke and Pepsi. Okay, so when the price of Coke rises, the quantity demanded of Pepsi rises, because Pepsi, which was not a good substitute, at least in the minds of some people before, now becomes a better substitute. So when the price of Coke rises, the quantity demanded of Pepsi rises. That's how substitutes work. And then on the opposite, of course, as well. When the price of Coke drops, the quantity demanded of Pepsi drops. Finally, the change in consumer expectations. So if we think that the price of something is going to rise in the future, then today we're going to buy more of it. If we think the price of something is going to fall in the future, then we will wait and purchase it later on when it's cheaper. Likewise, when our income changes, if I'm convinced that I'm going to get a raise in the future, then I'll buy more stuff today because I know that I'll be able to pay for it. Likewise, if I think that I might get a pay cut or I might lose my job, then all of a sudden I'm going to buy a lot less of things because I have to save my money today so that I don't run out when my income goes away. So now you see all of these determinants of demand. So these are the determinants of demand. Sometimes they're called the non-price determinants of demand. These are the shifters of the demand curve. The shifters of the demand curve. They're not changes in quantity demanded. Only price causes that. They're shifters in the demand curve. So here are the 5. Here are good definitions and examples. Or I'm sorry, here are good examples that fit with the definitions. That's where we're going to stop for today. This is demand. Great work, guys. Take care.